Deltarune tomorrow. Big day for annoying people. Hello friends. After 4 years, Deltarune Tomorrow is finally here. If you're anything like me, it's been a while since you last played chapters 1 and 2, and you're maybe not feeling like trying to beat Jevil again, but if you play the game again without beating Jevil, then you have a different save and you might get attached to that save, and then you can't start chapters 3 and 4 with that save, so I thought I'd maybe make a little recap video to hit the main story beat before I jump into chapters 3 and 4 tomorrow. Also, spoilers for everything in chapters 1 and 2. BT dubs. Chapter 1 begins with creating a vessel, which you can design to your liking, including its favorite blood type. You name the vessel the silly name that you want to play as, like Bagel, and then you... Oh. Me? Buy me dinner first. Then Bagel dies. You don't get to play as Bagel. You're playing as Chris, an angsty, androgynous teen that allows us to live out our lifelong dream of having Toriel Undertale as our mom. But it's not Toriel Undertale. It's Toriel Deltarune, who is like Toriel Undertale, but different. Deltarune seems to take place in an alternate universe version of Undertale, where we see a few familiar faces, but they aren't the characters that we've grown to know and love and cosplay as in regrettable middle school years. You could not waterboard those photos out of me. Toriel Not Undertale informs you that you're late to school, so you rush downstairs, but not really, because you have to interact with every single object in the house first. You meet Toriel Deltarune at the car, and we get the first banger of the game. This song introduces us to Deltarune's main motif to tell the player that this is something new and different, but gives us a little snippet of Undertale's main theme to keep us comfortable and intrigued about what the heck this is. Chris finally gets to school and Toriel Deltarune leaves to go teach her own class. We walk through the class and we find... Alphys Undertale? No, Alphys Deltarune. Surprise, surprise, we're late for class. We need to find a partner for our school project, but everyone has already partnered up, including Temmie with an egg. In this economy, in class we meet Caddy and Jockington, who I think will be important later, and also Noelle and Berdly, who will be important later. Noelle is a sweet friend of Chris's, and Berdly is the worst person ever. Noelle offers to ask the teacher if you can join her and Berdly as a group of 3, but as she asks, Susie enters the classroom.
Hey. How y'all doing?
We have a partner now. Alphys Deltarune realizes that she's out of chalk and sends Susie out to the supply closet to go get some. Then she realizes that she doesn't actually trust Susie, so she sends you out to go follow her and make sure that she's actually getting the chalk. Okay. Chris walks out into the hallway to find Susie eating sticks of chalk. Susie notices us, and after a swell appetizer of chalk, decides to use our face as an entree. Okay. Susie spares Chris's life, which leaves Chris completely unfazed, and they head to the supply closet to get some more chalk. Like all supply closets, this one leads into an endless void of nothingness, and we fall into the depths of darkness. Chris wakes up in a mysterious land and finds that they have turned bisexual. After a bit of spooky wandering, we find Urple Susie hiding in a pile of dust, which we are going to ignore the implications of. Susie decides to follow us and then immediately regrets her decision, speeding ahead until you happen upon a shadowy figure that immediately tries to murder both of you with card symbols. A chase ensues until you reach a dim village, deemed Castletown, and you meet a mysterious cloaked figure that welcomes you, declaring themselves the Prince of the Kingdom of Darkness. He informs you of a prophecy that tells of a human, a monster, and a prince from the dark that work together to seal the new dark fountain and banish the angels' heaven.
Wait, is this a f***ing play about us?
Susie is entirely uninterested until... the best character introduction ever. This is Lancer, a silly little guy with minor daddy issues and a major banger of a theme song. We enter our first battle where everything is different and scary, but at least we get another banger. Like Undertale, you have the choice to talk to your opponent and defeat them in a peaceful way, but unlike Undertale, you have a unit of destruction on your team that decides to beat up this child on a tricycle with her battle axe. The Prince of Darkness comes to check in on you and reveal his identity as a little cutie pie. We're Rousey. Susie takes off, unfazed by the sweet little baby that has just joined the party, leaving Chris and Rousey to follow behind. Rousey takes you to a training area for you to practice battling, where you can either be kind to enemies and spare them, or beat them into submission using Rousey's pacify spell. You also have the option to kill enemies, but that makes Rousey sad, so why would you do that? After the training, you pass through the great door to find yourself in The Field of Hopes and Dreams. The only song deemed so good that it has to tell you the title of it right then and there in-game. No other song does this. You pass through your first sets of enemies and find signs left by Lancer. And then Lancer, who informs you that Susie just beat the shit out of him. You continue on past the Top Chef, puzzles, and the Maze of Death, which is really not a maze. Lancer confronts you with a team of exclusively support enemies and reveals that he maybe does not know how battles work. You eventually find Susie, who has been stumped by a puzzle that requires 3 people to solve. If only there were 3 people here to solve this puzzle. Rousey convinces Susie to join you because she literally can't get home without you, completing the gender trifecta of a girl-boy, a boy-girl, and the other one. After some fanfare and completing the puzzle, you encounter C-Round, or Crowned, a little cutie pie that Susie beats the out of. You make it to a shop run by a shopkeeper named Sham, spelled like Seam, pronounced like Ireland, who probably knows a lot more than he lets on, but we're not gonna care about that right now. Susie bullies Lancer for not being scary enough and threatens to bite his face off. Luckily, Lancer thinks that's cool and awesome. He sends enemies to thrash you and Susie tries to thrash them in return, but you can now warn enemies that you have a purple powerhouse on your team that will kill them on the spot, which maybe counterintuitive? Puzzles, battles, new location! More puzzles and more battles, but new and different. You find Lancer, who is now cool and edgy after listening to My Chemical Romance, and he threatens to smash you into blood, which he will collect in his little bucket. Yeah. Lancer doesn't actually have any guys to thrash you, so he ends up helping you pick out your team name, which you draw out of a bucket. Me personally, my team is called the Squad. Or the Squad. You can also choose the Fun Gang or the Lancer Fan Club, but Squad just has a certain je ne sais quoi. You encounter C-Round again, who gets crowned and turns into K-Round, growing a fabulous pair of legs and tries to kill you by faceplant. You eventually loosen the crown and it turns back into its little cutie pie self. Rousey begins to scold Susie for trying to beat the out of the little guy, so Susie leaves the squad to join Lancer as the bad guy. You reach the forest, encounter new enemies, including the Dark Squad. Woo! You traverse the forest, doing puzzles for Susie and Lancer, and hear about a mysterious person named RK that's trying to make your life more difficult. Cool. You encounter a mini-boss named Clover and happen upon a wee bake sale, including a stand run by Susie and Lancer, who are selling cookies so that they can afford a Hearts donut. Also near the bake sale is a hammerman guy that calls himself the Smith Malleus that can fix things.
That's a surprise tool that can help us later.
After more enemies, you encounter a sweet little boy who needs help making an evil plan to impress his cool best friend. Help him! This gives you the opportunity to create a machine to thrash your own ass, which you can do, or you can make a duck. Turns out the sweet little boy that you were helping was a different sweet little boy, Lancer. Oh no, you just gave them blueprints for a death machine to thrash your own ass. Or a duck. Susie and Lancer are up to more hijinks, including a maze that Lancer kind of leads you through, but then takes you the wrong way, so you have to go the opposite way as him, and then Susie shows compassion? Character growth! You lose both of them in the maze, but it's fine, and they find you at the end of the maze with your cool and awesome thrash machine, ready to battle. It blows up. This battle goes best by singing Susie to sleep and reasoning with Lancer to stop the battle. Susie rejoins the party and extends the invitation to Lancer, who doesn't follow the party in the traditional sense, but just kinda hovers behind. Susie learns more about kindness, and Lancer learns more about friendship until he realizes that the only thing standing in your way of getting home is his own father. Awkward. Lancer runs off towards the castle and you follow, but are taken prisoner with Rousey. You try eating moss, but it doesn't really help. Susie interrupts Rousey's sentimentality and nonchalantly requests help with a puzzle. Like, if you want to. The perspective switches to Susie, who does a puzzle all by herself before overhearing Lancer telling a guard that the squad, and specifically her, need to stay in prison forever. Lancer wants you to stay in prison so you don't kill his dad or his dad doesn't kill you, and Susie feels betrayed by the first real friend she's ever made. They fight, but Susie still loves Lancer and doesn't want to hurt him. She promises to try talking it out with Lancer's dad, even though neither of them are confident in this approach. Susie frees Chris and Rousey, and the reunited squad makes their way to the upper levels. Susie proposes to Rousey that she could try acting with you and agrees to listen to Chris's actions. After a bit of wandering and Susie really trying her best to be nice to enemies, you come across Rule's card, whom speaketh in terriblestly translated ye old English, and givest thou the most terrifyingest puzzle of thou's life? God? You continue flirting with enemies throughout the castle until you find... Beholdest! Rules hast returned, and thou throwest no match for his ultimate puzzle. You pass through a sick party and find a shop run by the man whom just tried to killeth thee, giveth thee one more delightfulest melody, and revealing that he is the Lancer's lesser dad. You continue on towards the Card King, but oh my god! Rules summonest K round once more and revealest... I'm not doing this anymore. Rules reveals that he is using a control crown that is actively harming our little checker buddy. You repeat the battle, now with Susie actually listening to you, and you free the little checker guy. Rules backtracks on everything and promises to leave you alone. At this point, you can head straight to the final battle of the chapter. Or, you go back, find the key pieces, talk to Sham, repair the keys, find the secret dungeon, and take on Jebel, an evil little guy with voice lines? And lore importance that isn't really clear yet? Also, did I mention that it's hard as fuck? Once you beat him, you're left with either a devil's knife, or a Jebel's tail, and a shadow's crystal, which are probably important. Anywho's, you encounter Lancer trying to reason with his father, which is not going well. Lancer's dad uses him as bait to get you to surrender by threatening to drop him off the roof of the castle. Lancer summons a spade to free himself and save your life, and you enter a battle with the King of Spades. You battle trying to reason with him until he succumbs to exhaustion. And he kills you. Chris rises to come to Susie's rescue and ends up getting cornered, getting nearly killed until Susie comes to Chris's rescue, stalling long enough for Lancer to rally the entirety of the king's army and overthrow the castle. The king is thrown into prison, you say your goodbyes, and you approach the fountain to head home. Rousey comes to send you off and whoa! So at this point, the general population had noticed the anagrams of Deltarune, mainly that Deltarune was an anagram of Undertale, Susie was an anagram of Issue, Chris was almost an anagram of Frisk, and Rousey was an anagram of Azrael. This was assumed to be fun and cool parallels until it's revealed that he looks exactly like Azrael, who is your brother. Yikes. You head back through the fountain and find yourself inside a supply closet with variant trinket versions of all the darkners you just encountered. This has no lore implications whatsoever. An entire day has passed and you've gained a new friend in Susie. Now you wander the town to see what all your new friends are up to, until you come upon... Sans Undertale. You can also talk to your father, who is not doing so hot post-divorce. There's also a mysterious door, which, again, has no lore implications. You head to bed, ready to take on a new adventure tomorrow. This is the cliffhanger we were left on for 3 years. Imagine it. You finally get new Undertale content and you feel all warm and fuzzy. You've made so many friends, old and new, and you just put your little avatar to bed and then it rips its soul out of its body and looks directly at the camera while pulling a knife. Cool. We also get the first song with words in it. I think we forget how wild it was that there are like voice lines and words in the music of this game. Like that was just an unprecedented thing at the time. I just lost so much footage. Remember that scary cliffhanger? Turns out Chris just wanted some pie. It's time for school and our window has moved 1 pixel down. This, of course, has many lore implications. You head to class, and Alphys Deltarune is mildly concerned for your life, and Susie is excited to see you. Berdly offers to read to the class, and... you fall asleep in class. Alphys Deltarune tries to do a wellness check on you, and you head into the hallway to find Susie, now complete with eyeballs, who rushes you back to the supply closet to continue your adventures from yesterday until... Noelle enters and asks you and Susie to join her and Berdly at the library to work on your group projects. Susie error.exes when she's confronted with the fact that people might actually like her, and you jump back into the dark world. You enter and find Rousey, who... Man, just put the hat back on. Rousey sends you back to the light world to find all the mysterious trinkets that were dumped on the ground after your journey yesterday, and when you bring them all back, they turn into their dark world counterparts, and your empty town becomes not so empty. Rousey has put together rooms for Chris, Susie, and Lancer, and all of the enemies you spared are living in your town, which they have named after you. Oh, you can also speak with Lancer's dad, who refers to Lancer as a bouncy little pumpkin, in a moment that's almost sweet until you remember that he's defending his choice of almost throwing him off of a roof. Susie lets it slip that you're avoiding doing your group project, and Rousey banishes you back to the light world until it's done. Lancer and Rules decide to go with you, becoming items in your pocket, and in the real world, they turn into the Jack of Spades and the Rules card. You're railroaded into the library by undying DELTARUNE, who is currently suplexing a car, and you head into the computer lab, which has turned into another dark world. You enter the tech-themed dark world and find Noelle, who is injured and is kidnapped, and this is all very bad, and then we meet Q5U4EX7YY2E9N, which is French for queen. The computer ruler of the dark world, capturing people to become her peons in her quest of world domination. Rather than fighting you herself, she prefers to capture cute little guys, plug wires into their face, and turn them into her monstrous Pokemon against their will. After the battle, Rousey joins your quest to steal the Dark Fountain and rescue Noelle. You start making your way through the dark world and banger. You traverse the world. There's enemies, there's puzzles, there's this dude that keeps trying to kill you with rhythm games. It's a hoot and a half. You find Queen trying to convince Noelle to sign a waiver to be her peon, which Noelle is not really into, and you use the power of teamwork to best Queen in a beat-em-up arcade game. You find a wee shop run by robot guys, enemies, puzzles, you accidentally sign Queen's peon form, the usual. You eventually re-encounter the guy that tried to kill you with rhythm games, who was working with the nice shopkeepers from earlier as rebels, and have mistaken you for being on Queen's side. You enter battle, and using the power of friendship and a nice little leitmotif, you start a little dance party. Okay. Also, during this battle, Susie decides to gain free will, so now she and Rousey can act without you. Weird implications. They open their full shop, and if you had a nickel for every time someone tried to kill you and then opened a shop to sell you items, you'd have 2 nickels.
Which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice, right?
You eventually make your way to a sick roller coaster with customized carts for the squad, and Queen attempts to capture you, but eventually runs out of cages, so she brings you a small plot twist in the form of Noelle suddenly being on her side, and Berdly is here. No one is really happy about this. You battle, bumping into Berdly's cart until it breaks down, and Queen reveals that you're on an unfinished roller coaster that takes you straight to the dump. Susie injures herself in the trash pile and takes interest in learning healing magic. Rousey presents us with the choice of following him or Susie, but Susie decides to go off with Rousey, leaving you alone in the city. You use the power of crosswalks to traverse the area and encounter Noelle in one of the funniest exchanges in the game. Noelle hides from Queen, Queen makes an uneasy truce with you, Queen hides from Berdly, Berdly also tries to enter an uneasy truce with you, entering you into double truces, and Noelle enters you into triple truces. Noelle joins the party, and Chris exploits her fear of mice to make it through a puzzle before teaching her how to battle. She fulfills a similar healer, magic user, guide role to Rousey, and you both take down enemies and puzzles until you re-encounter Queen, who is crunk on age-appropriate battery acid. She admits that she has a certain fondness for Chris's emotionless and opinionless state of being and offers to play another arcade game with you until quite the statue. Queen acknowledges the existence of bird nipples and sends Berdly off while she runs the other way. Right past Noelle's infallible disguise of a cardboard box. You pass a mini shop run by Sweet Captain and KK or Cakes before making your way through crosswalks and annoying mouse rooms. You encounter Berdly, who just shows up to taunt you while you're trying to do a puzzle. You finish the puzzle, Noelle gets over her fear of mice, and you find Berdly again, who is very offended that Noelle chose to join you. You battle, eventually wearing Berdly out enough for him to leave you alone. Queen finds you and Noelle and shoves you into her car to escape from Berdly and find Noelle, who is definitely not in the car with you. Chris chauffeurs Queen around, gets the banana, and eventually gets out to press the crosswalk button. When they're alone, they encounter this frickin' guy. Spanton G. Spanton. A sleazy salesman that speaks in nonsensical broken text and has a great theme song. You battle and end up being pressured to take a deal with Spamton, an action that will have no repercussions later. You reunite with Queen, who reveals that she might actually kind of care for Noelle. You split off as the car explodes, and Noelle takes some time to reveal some lore about her mysterious older sister, December, who seems to have disappeared in some way. You come across a wee carnival, and Queen wins a prize, disposes of it on your head, and you reunite with Rouse and Susie, who shows off her super awesome healing powers. You give away your prize and Noelle comes out of hiding, with everyone joining your party. This is too many people. You can't enter battle with 4 people, so Noelle kinda gets booted for the following sequence. You find Queen at the castle entrance, who captures everyone and... Oh. Hey, Rouse. Rouse is left to some mystery fate, and we find Chris inside the castle, who summons Lancer from their pocket to free them. However, Lancer is unable to exist in this world and dies. Susie and Berdly rush ahead, while Chris is left in a hall of rooms, finding personalized rooms for themselves, Susie, Berdly, Caddy, Jockington, and Azriel. This has no lore implications whatsoever. Chris solves a few puzzles faster than Berdly, which damages his ego enough for him to reveal parts of his tragic backstory, that he's only seen as smarter than Noelle because in the finals of a spelling bee, she froze up when asked to spell the name of her dead/missing sister. That was my neck. Berdly runs ahead of you and you find Rouse, who is wearing a cute little butler outfit because he has no backbone, and explains that Lancer can't exist in this world as he turns to stone. Berdly puts together a plan to save Noelle and you make your way through the palace, passing a shop coming to... underrated song. You make your way through living paintings and various hijinks until Berdly and Susie split off to find Noelle. You and Rouse board the acid tunnel of love, which would be great if Rouse wasn't so closely connected to your brother. It gets worse the further you get. Rouse starts confessing that he really likes spending time alone with you. Up to now, I've kind of used you and Chris as interchangeable names for the same person, but it is important to distinguish that you, the player, are a different character and entity from Chris, the body that you inhabit. At this point in Chapter 2, we can start coming across decisions that can actively make Chris uncomfortable, most notably when getting close to Rouse in a romantic sense. Gross. This is a really unique aspect of Deltarune, and allows Toby Fox to do that thing where he makes you feel horrible for taking the options that he programmed into his game. I feel like you kinda don't get this feeling of player-involved guilt in a lot of games, so it's at the very least a new experience. Hey, Rules. Yeah, he's still here. Turns out he jumped out of your pocket earlier in search of a new evil overlord, and plans to use your thrashing machine as a pirate ship to defeat you and gain Queen's favor. However, because Rules is also not of this world, he begins to turn to stone and you just float on by. You take your end-of-ride picture and Rouse begins to wonder how Susie is doing. We can see Noelle in her room, and she is saved from werewires by Susie. Susie convinces Noelle that this whole world is a dream and they have a super chill, we definitely aren't in love with each other kind of conversation, which continues on this conveniently heart-shaped Ferris wheel. Just as Susie is about to ask Noelle to maybe do something later, Berdly approaches, which causes Susie to exit as fast as possible. Berdly apologizes for his behavior to Noelle. No, he's apologizing for leading her on. Romantically. Read the room, man. Also, Berdly confesses that he has a crush on Susie, which finally snaps Noelle and makes her want to beat the shit out of him. We come back to Chris and Rouse, reuniting the squad. At this point, you can make the optional journey back to the trash zone and find Spamton's shop. You can chat with him and he will request you bring him an empty disc. You buy the keygen that can unlock a secret room in the castle that holds the disc and return to him, transferring him the disc and unlocking a secret battle in the basement of the palace that will reference a lot of lore that we don't really understand quite yet. And he tries to take your soul to become free. You win this battle by snapping Spamton's puppet strings. You receive a deal maker and another shadow crystal, and a small group therapy session to recover from what you just saw. Anyway, you traverse the final area of the castle and Queen is on the roof, who reveals that she's captured Berdly and Noelle again and intends to use Berdly as her evil Pokemon. The battle is completed by loosening Berdly's wire and taking down the Queen's shield, eventually allowing Berdly to free himself and Queen to run off. Berdly tries to nonchalantly get Susie to kiss him, but it doesn't work, so we all just ignore that. The squad leaves Berdly and catches up to Queen, who is soliloquying about the roaring night and her plan to cover the entire world in darkness, effectively making the entire light world into dark world. Also, she crucified Noelle? Okay, you kick Queen's and free Noelle, but then Queen rises up in a super cool and awesome giant freaking robot. The squad is knocked off the roof, being saved by Berdly, who has rallied Sweet Captain Cakes, Rules, and your other recruits to help you fight Queen. You combine into your own battle robot and take on Giga Queen in a similar game to your first fight with Queen. Queen does eventually win the fight, capturing the squad and asking Noelle to create a new fountain. Noelle tells Queen that she's not really into this, and Queen confesses that she was only trying to make Noelle happy before her battery dies. Noelle, Susie, and Berdly conclude that they really like living in the dark world, until Rouse tells them to cut that out. Turns out that making more dark fountains is bad, and will unleash chaos and titans that will envelop the land in devastation. Also, all the Darkners will turn into statues and the Lightners will go crazy. So maybe not. Queen agrees to come and live in your castle town, and Susie ushers you towards the dark fountain as to not accidentally show emotions or confess her feelings, and you seal the fountain, taking you back to the library. Chris and Susie wander the town, and you can explore, check on your castle town, chat with Noelle's father Rudy, and have an incredibly awkward encounter with Toriel Deltarune's ex-husband, and head back home, where Toriel Deltarune invites Susie in to make some pie. Chris goes to wash their hands, and this again. Chris rips out the soul from their body and jumps out the window while Susie and Toriel Deltarune have familial bonding time. Eventually, Chris returns. We have no idea what they did. They return the soul to their body and we reclaim control. We return to the kitchen and Toriel Deltarune invites Susie to spend the night and you fall asleep on the couch watching movies together. Just kidding. Toriel Deltarune's tires have been slashed. If only we knew someone with a knife. This has no lore implications. Just kidding! This implies everything! We get a glimpse of what we have assumed to be Mike or Tenna as a possible boss for Chapter 3, and credits roll. However, things could have gone differently if you're okay with getting a little weird. I've been covering this game from an effectively passive route standpoint, but would it even be a Toby Fox game if you don't have the choice to be evil in such a way that puts a pit in your stomach? If you force Noelle to get the freeze ring and kill every enemy you encounter, the game takes on a sinister tone. You can hear Noelle's negative thoughts about you and enemies begin to run away instead of chasing after you. Noelle begins to fear you, listening to your command to proceed and telling herself that you're just making her stronger. The screen blacks out during puzzles and you eventually get the thorn ring, doubling down on Noelle's religious imagery. You encounter Berdly, entering battle as he tries to free Noelle from your control, and Noelle unlocks the spell Snowgrave. You have to repeatedly pressure Noelle into using it against Berdly, and eventually she gives in. She uses it on Berdly, possibly killing him, and gaslights herself into not knowing what she did and running away. You reunite with Susie and Rouse and enter a speedrun version of the palace, encountering lots of Peepus? And evidence of Spamton. This takes you to a solo version of the Spamton Neophyte just before the Dark Fountain. You defeat Spamton and seal the fountain, returning to the library where Berdly is dead. You can pop in to check on Noelle and her father, where she has a new sense of arrogance and fear of the loss of control. You can listen in on Noelle's thoughts, and she is totally terrified of you. The rest of the game stays the same, and we have no idea what the repercussions of the weird route will be yet. This is the cliffhanger that we've been left on since 2021. I'm almost dreading chapters 3 and 4 just because of the new cliffhanger that will inevitably be left on. I'm still gonna play it as soon as possible, but I'm scared of that part. Pretty soon, the amount of Deltarune that we have will double. We'll have new characters, locations, and theories to debate. I'm super excited, but also a little sad to say goodbye to this era of Deltarune that we've been in for the last 4 years. Soon, everything will be in a new context. Maybe something that's super funny now will be looked back on with horror and extreme guilt at our actions. However Deltarune chapters 3 and 4 come out, I am so excited to get back into this game. I love these characters, I love this world, and I am so excited to see what comes next. Hopefully this video was helpful for you as a nice little recap of chapters 1 and 2 before we jump right into 3 and 4 tomorrow. My name is Abigail, and I hope you have a great day. Bye! You're railroaded into the library by undying You're railroaded into the library by undying Deltarune.